Welcome to Work in Progress, Conversations with Creators. I'm your host, Logan Royce Beitmen. On today's episode, I have with me NADYA TOLOKONNIKOVA, the creator of Pussy Riot. And she spoke with me about a durational performance she's been doing in LA during the dissent of the National Guard on the city. And the performance is called Police State, so it's really been proven out by the events unfolding around her. She took some time out to speak with me, and I really appreciate it. I hope that you enjoy.
If you enjoy our podcast, please like and subscribe and consider becoming a digital subscriber to the Albuquerque Journal to help us bring you more content like this. You can find this episode and all of our podcasts on the Albuquerque Journal website, abqjournal.com, as well as YouTube, iTunes, and Spotify. See the show notes for a discount code on a digital subscription. Thank you for supporting the Albuquerque Journal, New Mexico's leading news.
NADYA, thank you so much for joining me, and I want to hear about your piece, Police State, that you're doing at the LA MoCA, which, it's a performance where you're living in a prison cell, a simulated prison cell, and the piece itself was ended early because a actual police state has descended on LA. Tell us about that.
The piece started on June 5th, and in a couple of days, the raids started happening in Los Angeles, ICE raids, absolutely gut-wrenching and terrifying, families being separated, pregnant women being arrested, and people decided to step up and made a little demonstration against it initially, and then Trump decided to bring National Guard to Los Angeles, which prompted a bigger response from Los Angeles community. So effectively, in 2 days after my performance started, the police state performance broke the fourth wall and spilled into the city. So today, I can say that National Guard is performing Police State instead of me. The museum was closed on Sunday. It was the fourth day of my performance. I've decided to stay on Sunday and continue until 6 p.m. as I've planned originally. And then after that, got out of the cell and joined the protesters. So this week, the museum is closed. So I'm just going to be on the streets instead. And the museum said that they're going to reschedule the performance, so it's not canceled, but rescheduled.
Yeah. What's it like on the streets out there when you've been out there?
It's a mix of feelings because the reason why we're on the streets is heartbreaking. But on the other hand, the spirit of solidarity is precious to me, and I saw people who would refuse to leave even though they were tear gassed, shot with rubber bullets, and the response is definitely not appropriate. It's not proportionate. The protesters en masse are peaceful, and they just want to see each other, and they want to make a statement that it's their city. And the Marines, the National Guard, that's definitely not a proportional response.
Yeah. And I mean, does it remind you of Russia?
It starts to be feeling a lot like Russia.
Yeah. And let me ask you, so while you were in the cell in the MoCA, you were doing some sound art work. And I heard the actual sounds of the flash grenades and the helicopters seeped into it. Is that right?
My husband, John Caldwell, who is a part of Pussy Riot as well, was out there on the streets with the protesters, tear gassed, and he was doing live stream audio to me while I was in the cell. Continuing my performance until 6 p.m. as it was scheduled. So I've played Gregorian chants and sounds from Russian prisons and just some deep ambient noises with the sounds of the actual live protest, because I felt like it's damn important to acknowledge what's happening in the city right now.
Yeah, yeah. Let me ask you also, because I mean, you were imprisoned for 2 years, I believe, and it was a labor camp. You had to create. You were like sewing prison guards or military uniforms, I think. And then to do a performance where you're living in a kind of simulated prison. I mean, I think some people might look at that and they're saying like, are you kind of reliving your trauma? But I think you're transforming it into something else. Like you're not. But tell me, how does it feel to be in this kind of like a fake prison that you've created, that where you're doing creative actions?
I'm not really big into digging into my trauma or my feelings. I prefer to create and to act. So I don't really think about it. Don't care. Does it trigger me? I don't know. I came to the idea of creating this installation called Police State because the police state is not something in my distant past. It's something that is happening here and now. And when I was thinking of it first, when I was inventing the idea of the installation and performance, I was thinking mostly about Russia, not about the United States, but it turned out to be true also about the United States. Most of there are thousands of political prisoners in Russia, and I think they are the best people of my country because they refuse to be silent. They refuse to call black, white. They refuse to call war a special military operation. So for standing up against Putin, for standing up for Ukraine, they've been locked for 10, 15, 20 years. So some of them happen to be artists, poets, writers, and I've collected their work and showing it as a part of the installation. Yeah. So to me, it's a call to arms. It's a call for people to care about those who are imprisoned, care about those who are vulnerable, care about those who are excluded by the oppressive apparatus of the police state.
There's a Russian dissident, Alexei Navalny, who has talked about how like being a kind of a political prisoner is like a job that's like necessary in a society. I don't know if you've heard that or what you think about that idea.
Alexei was my friend.
Yeah.
And this, it's very typical of him to just make everything lighter than it is. It's a deadly job.
Yeah.
He got murdered and by Russian government. He got poisoned more than a year ago. So this exhibition in part is my personal note to Alexei that his work is continuing. We lost a lot of hope as progressive Russians with Alexei Navalny, but we gained responsibility. And so we had this illusion that Alexei Navalny will come and just save us all, kind of like we'll fix it. Because he was extremely mighty because of his wit and wisdom and charisma, and because of the way how he was so brave and hardworking and just stable psychologically, such a stable human being. And so we lost a bit of that hope, but we gained responsibility. So, it's a job of an activist in general to refuse to turn eyes away from painful things.
How do we, people who care about humanity and don't want further descent into fascism and authoritarianism, I mean, how do we keep ourselves from just feeling totally hopeless, and to also be brave enough? I feel like I don't know how brave of a person I am. I've gone to protests. I have been arrested one time. I try to, if I can, highlight people like you on my show. I do that with what a limited platform I have. But I think there's people that are much. I mean, you're extremely brave, and there's a lot of brave people. And how do you maintain that courage, I guess, and some kind of optimism that things can change?
Yeah, of course, things can change. If you look at human history, democracy is one of the less stable forms and the most rare forms of human organization. And I think the idea that history inevitably goes towards progress is tricking us. It's playing a bit joke with us right now, because we rely on this idea, kind of sit back and relax and don't feel like we have to take action, that we have to sacrifice certain things to protect democracy, to protect our rights that our grandmothers, our grandfathers fought for. It all can be easily taken away from us, but also if we decide to organize and to show up in the way that is organic to you. You've mentioned you do a show, and that's something organic and comfortable to you, right? So I think if you think about long-term activism, you must do it in a way that is organic to you. Yes, you would have to get out of your comfort zone once in a while. Yes, you would have to sacrifice some things. But generally, if you're a painter, then think, how can you use that? If you're a gardener, think how can you use that? Maybe you'll grow tomatoes that you'll give someone who needs them.
Right.
So you don't necessarily have to become someone else in order to be an activist. So I think that is, this organic nature of my activism really makes it, it makes it possible for me to be an activist long term, not just, showed up once on the weekend and then don't think about stuff for the next 5 years. So I've always been an artist, and that's what I love doing. And once in a while I combine politics and art, and that's sustainable for me.
Yeah. And, there's so much humor in your work, and it seems like you're really having a lot of fun a lot of times, even though you're dealing with deadly serious stuff. And, I was a performance artist when I was in college, and I actually did a few performances where I lived in like a 2 meter by 2 meter chain link dog cage for a while, and did some, kind of that, reminds me a little bit of this kind of thing. So and when I was doing that, and I was, people are like, why, like you're torturing yourself. And for me, I was actually having a lot of fun. I think it looked different for outsiders. And I'm wondering if there's a bit of that with like, because it does seem like you're enjoying yourself in a lot of the work that you do. And I think that sometimes when people are writing about or reporting on your work, maybe that aspect doesn't come through all the time, but I think you're enjoying yourself. Sometimes.
My work is my work and my dog, two sources of my happiness.
Yeah.
I'm not really big into happiness otherwise. Don't know why. Maybe because I'm depressed. Just maybe because the world is crumbling. Don't know. But to me, my artistic work is a great source of joy. And I always like to combine desperation and hope in the same sentence, because there is a light in the end of the tunnel, and I want people who go to my show see not just the dark side of it, but also the contrast, the brightness, the solidarity, how this brotherly, sisterly love that people in artist community have to each other. There are a lot of beautiful things that should be noticed. A bravery of a person who have decided to support me while I was on hunger strike in jail. Another fellow inmate supported me, knowing that it can cost her a lot. She can be beaten up for this. She can be punished in a lot of different ways. But this beauty of people showing solidarity, even though it can cost them a lot, is precious. And there are a million other ways in which you can find this joy to keep going.
Yeah. The other thing I want to say, it seems like right now the eyes of the world are on LA, and you're right there in the center of it. And when you were doing it was so powerful, even when the museum was closed and you were inside, and like Artnet was writing about you and other, and it's kind of like, even though you're kind of doing this performance that no one can physically see because the museum is closed, it still has a global reach, and there's something sort of powerful about that. I mean, I think back to like Yoko Ono and John Lennon when they did like their Bed In for Peace, and it's just they're there inside of in their home, but journalists come and from this little spot, and there, I don't know, like I feel like there's some message there for people as well, especially now that anyone can do a podcast, anyone can be on social media, no matter where you are in the world, you can have a voice, right?
You can, but sometimes you have to scream louder than other times. Meaning that, yeah, of course, John and Yoko would attract reporters wherever they go. It's like, if I lay down in this bed, if you lay down in your bed, that's just... So, I mean, there is certain privilege in being followed by the press.
Sure.
And for me, it's not always the case. And that's the reason me and my comrades started Pussy Riot in 2011, and we were extremely provocative, extremely abrasive, going to the Red Square, yelling in the face of Putin himself.
Yeah.
So you can be heard, but you got to invent ways of how to amplify your voice. And I've found out that art really helps. When I started Pussy Riot, it was me and my friend Kat. And then we've created this ability of a movement, just, inviting our friends to participate in one action, like participate in this photo shoot, to create like almost this fake visibility that we do have a lot of members. And then once we ended up in jail, a lot of members did join, indeed. So yeah, I don't have universal answers for everyone, but I do believe that using creative techniques, you can amplify your voice to incredible volumes.
Yeah, absolutely. Just, kind of with this particular performance, were you thinking about other, kind of durational performance artists like Te-Ching Hsieh, or, like kind of, were there sort of models that you were thinking about comparing, this work to?
This idea was born partly because of my conversations with Marina Abramovic.
Oh, yeah.
She's done a lot of durational stuff. I mean, like, I can think of her performance at MoMA in New York. First, of course, Artist is Present. Then her house with an ocean view where she lived for 2 weeks in a setting, no eating, I believe no drinking. Is it even possible not to drink so long? Maybe just not eating.
I don't remember, but yeah.
But I think the reason why I started to really think about it, because I've started to collaborate more with institutions, and to me, it's still important to maintain intensity that I would have on the streets. And so I think like one of the ways to bring this intensity is through making the performance durational. So if I just sat in this jail cell for an hour, that would be just weak, I think. Like it would be not the same. Like you can, if you are in the Cathedral of Christ the Savior in front of the altar, 40 seconds is enough. But if you are in the white walls of a museum, then you got it. It takes more than that. So it's my attempt. It's a trial and error. You see if you can reach this intensity. Well, I must say, in collaboration with Donald Trump and National Guard, but the intensity was reached. It was not planned. Obviously, how could I ever plan it? But a lot of artists like to talk about the destruction of the fourth wall, and sometimes it comes in very unexpected ways.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's definitely, it feels to me like in this particular moment, you're like, if not one of the most relevant artists in the world doing this work, with that as the backdrop. So thank you for doing what you do. And thank you for being here. You're gonna be coming to Santa Fe, I believe, are you going to be here on June 28th, the opening, or you have an exhibition coming up?
I have an exhibition coming up at Turner Carroll. You should check the dates. Not
we're
the
very
best one with the dates.
We're very excited to have you here. And thank you again for speaking with me. This is really wonderful.
Thank you.